From the moment Emma Rivers stepped onto the schoolyard of Ridgewood High, everyone sensed something unusual about her, but they couldn't place it. She was quiet, polite to everyone, and kept her head down like someone who had spent a lifetime avoiding attention. She dressed simply, spoke softly, and moved like a shadow light, silent, unnoticeable. And that made her the perfect target for the worst students in school. Chase Miller and his pack of wannabe tough guys. Chase, the handsome star quarterback who thought the world belonged to him, spotted Emma from across the courtyard the moment she arrived. He elbowed his friends Tyler and Brandon and grinned. "Fresh meat," he said. "Look at her, she looks like she's scared of her own shadow." Tyler laughed. "Bet she cries if you just raise your voice." Brandon smirked. "Bet she cries if you breathe at her." They didn't know not yet that the girl they mocked had once stood against armed insurgents in the mountains of another country, had survived ambushes, had dragged wounded teammates through gunfire, had stared death in the face more times than they had failed algebra. They didn't know she had medals locked away at home, medals she never bragged about, medals she didn't even want. Emma had spent 8 years in special forces, serving before she was ever allowed to drink legally, pushed by a life that had taught her pain before it taught her peace. When she left the service, she didn't return as a hero. She returned as someone tired, someone who just wanted a quiet life, a normal life, a chance to be young for the first time. So here she was, 22 years old, finishing the high school diploma she never completed because she was overseas, fighting battles nobody back home cared to understand. She hid her identity not because she was afraid. She hid it because she didn't want anyone to treat her differently. She wanted peace, but peace was fragile at Ridgewood High, and Chase Miller had just decided to shatter it. The first week, they mocked her behind her back. Farm girl, country trash, scared little mouse. Emma ignored them. She had ignored worse screams, explosions, nightmares. Their insults were whispers by comparison. But in the world of bullies, being ignored is the greatest insult of all. On the second week, they tried bumping her in the hallways. She moved gracefully aside every time, not even looking at them. "She thinks she's better than us," Chase growled. "We need to teach her a lesson." What lesson? Chase didn't know. Bullies rarely do. On the third week, after Emma helped a smaller boy they were picking on, Chase snapped. "She wants to be a hero." Chase sneered. "Let's see how brave she is." And the moment that sealed everything happened on Friday afternoon, under the old oak tree behind the football field. The seniors were gone, teachers were meeting inside, and the yard was quiet except for Chase's gang. Emma was sitting alone, reading a book. Tyler cracked his knuckles. "Perfect time," Brandon nodded. "Let's scare her." Chase grinned, and in that grin was every cruel thing he had done to every quiet kid before Emma. But Emma didn't notice them approach. Not until Chase grabbed the book right out of her hands. "Hey, country girl," he mocked. "What's this?" "You reading to the chickens." Emma sighed. She stood up slowly. "Please, give it back." Her voice wasn't afraid, just tired. Chase hated that. "What did you say?" he snapped. "I said," Emma repeated calmly, "give it back, please." Chase shoved her. "Make me." She stepped back, but didn't retaliate. Didn't fight. Didn't raise her voice. She simply said, "I don't want trouble." Brandon snorted. Too late. Tyler pulled out the rope they had stolen from the gym storage. Let's take her for a walk. Emma's stomach tightened. She had seen that look in men before, the look of someone who didn't want to stop until someone else was broken. She didn't want violence. She didn't want to hurt kids half her age. But she also knew when running wouldn't work. Chase grabbed her wrist. She tried to pull back without force, but he twisted her arm aggressively. "Don't touch me," Emma said sternly. But Chase laughed. "Or what? You gonna cry?" Emma didn't cry. Not when bombs fell. Not when friends died. And not now. But her silence only infuriated him. "Hold her," Chase barked. Tyler and Brandon grabbed her arms. Emma could have broken freezily, but she didn't want to injure them. She still believed this was just intimidation. Just scare tactics. Just boys being stupid. Until she saw what Chase pointed at. A giant, active wasp nest hanging from a low branch near the oak tree. "Let's see how Miss Quiet handles nature," Chase laughed. Tyler's eyes widened. "Dude, won't that actually hurt her?" Chase shrugged. "Who cares?" Brandon hesitated. "This is kinda messed up." Chase glared. "Are you backing out? Because if you are, you're next." That shut them up. And Emma knew in that split second that they weren't going to stop. Not on their own. Not until something traumatic happened. But if she fought back, if she defended herself the way her training demanded, she could break these kids in half. She didn't want that. So she stayed still. "It's okay," Emma said softly. "Just let me go. You don't want to do this." Chase smirked. "Watch me." They dragged her under the tree and tied her wrists and waist to the trunk tight enough to trap her but loose enough that she could break. Free if she truly tried. Chase stepped closer and tapped the nest with a long stick. The buzzing grew louder. Emma felt adrenaline rush through her veins. Not fear instinct. She was calculating wind direction, insect aggression levels, escape timing. "Chase, stop," Emma said quietly. "You don't know what you're doing." "Shut up," Chase said, tapping the nest again. The buzzing grew louder. The hive trembled. A few wasps shot out and circled angrily. Emma inhaled slowly. If they fully attacked, she could die. If she broke the ropes and fought back, Chase might not walk again. And then, from behind the tree, someone screamed, "Emma." "What the hell am I?" Chase froze. Emma's heart stopped. A deep, furious voice echoed across the field. A voice she knew too well. A voice she had hoped she would never hear in this context. "Who tied my wife to a tree?" Emma's eyes widened. "Jake." Chase turned around. Dan saw a 6'2" combat-built man sprinting toward them across the field. Jake Rivers. Former Delta Force. Emma's husband. The last person any bully would ever want to meet. Tyler panicked. "Dude, run." Brandon squeaked. "Now." Chase tried to back away, but his legs turned to jelly. "We didn't, it was a joke. We weren't gonna," but Jake didn't even look at them. He went straight to Emma, slicing the rope with a pocket knife and pulling her safely away from the nest. "Are you hurt?" he demanded. "Did they touch you?" "I'm fine," Emma whispered. "Please. Don't do anything stupid." But Jake's eyes were locked on Chase, and his rage was cold and deadly, worse than shouting, worse than threats. Chase stepped back. Look, man, W.E. didn't know she was. Jake cut him off with a whisper that chilled the air. "You tied my wife to a wasp nest." Brandon stuttered. "We're sorry." Jake stepped forward. Chase flinched so hard he fell backward into the dirt. Stay back. You think tying someone up is funny? Jake asked, taking another step. You think hurting someone weaker than you makes you strong? Chase shook violently. I didn't mean. Yes, you did, Jake said. Bullies always mean it. Emma touched Jake's arm gently. Jake, don't. Jake closed his eyes, breathed hard, and stepped back, but he wasn't done. Not by a long shot. Pick yourselves up, Jake ordered. The three boys scrambled to their feet. You're coming with us. Chase cried. Where? Jake grabbed Chase by the collar and started walking him toward the school building, to the principal, and then to the police. Chase tried to pull away. You can't do that. Jake glared. Try me. When they reached the principal's office, Jake made them confess everything, every detail, every intention, every cruel word. The principal was horrified. The boys' parents were called. 2 were suspended. 1 faced expulsion. But that wasn't the end. After the meeting, Jake stood over Chase and his friends in the hallway. Look at her, he ordered. Emma stood quietly behind him. That woman has saved lives, Jake said. She has carried wounded men through gunfire. She has survived things your nightmares couldn't imagine. And you, he pointed at Chase, you thought you could break her. Chase lowered his head, tears forming. I'm sorry, Jake's voice softened, but only slightly. You're not sorry. Not yet, but you will be. Because starting Monday, you're reporting to the community service program she volunteers at, the one that helps disabled veterans. You'll spend every afternoon with men who faced real danger. Men who lost limbs. Men who can't sleep because they saw horrors you can't begin to understand. And you'll look them in the eye and explain why you thought tying someone to a tree was funny. Chase swallowed hard. I'll do it. Good, Jake said. Because if you don't, I'll come back. And next time, I won't be this calm. Over the next weeks, the boys changed. Completely. At the Veterans Center. Chase met a soldier his own age 19, who had lost both legs. Brandon met a man who cried because his PTSD made loud noises unbearable. Tyler met a woman with burn scars across her back from an explosion. And every one of them called Emma hero. The boys started sitting near her at lunch, not because they had to, but because they wanted to. They apologized. Truly, deeply. And Emma forgave them. Not because they deserved it, because she believed in second chances. One afternoon, Chase approached her alone. Emma, he said softly, I know it doesn't fix anything, but thank you for not fighting us, for not hurting